Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode on the Richard Fernando Investing channel. That's of course me, and I'm here to talk about 4 stocks that I'm watching for the month of July 2020. Hoping going forward that this will become a regular series on this channel. Of course, you can check out my podcast as well. Just by ways of introduction, I'm a university student here in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, focusing on the finance sector, and I'm a frequenter really of financial YouTube, of Discord, of stock twits every single night on stock twits, not gonna lie, because it's just entertaining. Plus all the typical, as you'd expect, Facebook groups for particular stocks, as well as exchanges. So I tend to focus on the US markets, the Australian or ASX, and the Hong Kong markets. So I've got securities in all 3, but I guess the most entertaining anyways for financial YouTube would definitely be the US market. So I'm looking forward to sharing 4 particular stocks that I've been watching and that I think you should consider adding to your watch list going forward. Okay, so without further ado, stock number 1 is STNE, ticker symbol STNE, or company name Stone Co. Just, I guess, a good side note is that Warren Buffett should still be invested in this. I think he's been in the stock for over a year now, actually. His cost basis I've worked out to be around the $24 mark, so he's up a considerable amount at this point. As I'm recording this, I think the stock is at about $42 pre-market heading into tomorrow being the 24th of June in the US. So what does this stock, I guess, engage in or do? They're a payments company. They provide these really cool, nifty looking green FPOS machines or point of sale machines to accept card payments in Brazil. But I think that they do have a nice runway for growth to the rest of South America and Central America potentially as well. So I did a course actually about this time last year in Chile, so in South America. And they explained to us that most South American companies, their big aim is to one day break into the Brazilian market. That's their kind of realistic stretch goal. So they'll start in Chile, they might go to Argentina, or start in Argentina, they might go to Chile. They work their way up the western coast, so they'll enter the Peruvian market, the Colombian market, and then hopefully the Mexican market. But that final goal is definitely the huge population in the hundreds of millions that is Brazil. And so the good thing is that Stone is already there, they have their base there, that's where they were formed. And essentially, they're good at adding these extra services in the same vein as Square. Of course, the valuation is a bit rich. Going off what I've read, a lot of people tend to attribute this to the Warren Buffett effect. So people naturally say, oh, Warren Buffett has kind of deviated from that typical value investing model. So this stock must be a multi-bagger in the future. So obviously quite a few people have jumped over and bought into Stone. But I like it. I do still like it. For just their sheer growth numbers, they're really capturing market share quite quickly. And even during COVID, they had an earnings call, an earnings report, and the numbers all looked good. I don't want this channel to be me throwing numbers at you, so I think that's definitely, I guess, the deep dive that you should be doing yourself. But just as a general basis, the one issue I have with it is, of course, the PE ratio is a bit high. Considering you could actually invest in a competitor, by the name of Pagseguro, or PAGS ticker symbol, that kind of gives you that same exposure to the Brazilian market in a very similar way. There is slight differences in terms of one company going more for the internet kind of based added services, but I think that you can't really go wrong if you try and expose yourself to both of these companies. It's that nice emerging market exposure that could give your portfolio the edge in terms of a bit more growth for the future. I definitely like both stocks, so I'm actually in both at the moment, and by no means should you take anything I say as direct financial advice, but I do think that they're worth adding to your watch list, especially considering they're having a bit of a resurgence right now. But if there's a dip into the 30s, I don't think you can really go wrong with either option for Stone or Pagseguro. Another kind of similar stock is Mercado Libre, or MELI, the stock symbol. I think it's just MELI. But that stock, they have Mercado Pago, which I would equate to a Stone or a Pagseguro. The only difference being, though, that they, speaking of Mercado Libre, they've hit all-time highs lately, and they also have that e-commerce exposure. So I guess that's where the valuation or the premium really comes in. But definitely check out Stone, check out Pags. That's my first general area or stock that you should add to your watch list, considering just how much people are loving payments right now. Now, second stock that I thought I'd suggest is to watch. I don't necessarily say get in at these levels, but watch the company called Plug. Now, why Plug? Mainly because I think that hydrogen-related stocks, maybe even look at fuel cell, could definitely pop off even more over the next few months. It seems as though after the Department of Energy in the USA dedicated or explicitly said that it's something that they're looking at, I can see a lot more investment entering these areas, and I can see it becoming just a general area that people like to invest in. And so I think it's important to look at kind of sector-related issues or sector-related views of where the money could be flowing into. And after the way Nikola Motors kind of debuted on the IPO, didn't IPO, but they kind of reverse took over or merged as a SPAC, you can see that there's definitely demand for renewables. And so I think that if you look at the general hydrogen area and Plug as a potential buy, I'm not sure though at these levels, I think you can't go too wrong. Definitely trying to beat the trend though, and make sure that you're not buying just out of pure FOMO. But what they do is basically they service Walmart and Amazon, Plug, in terms of providing hydrogen fuel-based solutions for robotics in their warehouses. So definitely a really interesting area to be in right now. Now, the third stock, I'd actually like to point out to a whole sector, and that is one I just mentioned in the SPACs. So SPACs are a vehicle basically for companies to be listed on the financial exchanges on the US markets without actually going through that traditional IPO process. So definitely I suggest you look into the whole, I guess, means of them getting listed through SPACs in detail. Just Google it and there's plenty of information out there. But there are quite a few SPACs which help companies list, and I think that because it's not going through that traditional IPO process, there's a chance for just retail investors like you and me, you and I, to get into these companies before they become household names. And so that's definitely what's happened with Nikola, in my opinion, in terms of the fact that they were actually listed as a stock called VTIQ or Vecto IQ. And Nikola, if you don't know, is a hydrogen fuel cell based trucking company that's trying to compete with Tesla. And I do suggest you watch them, considering on the 29th of June, they're taking pre-orders for the Badger, which is their full drive pickup truck, ute, whatever you want to call it. And I think that'll be a big watershed moment. I think that stock will either continue to skyrocket ridiculously in terms of valuation, or it could really come back down to earth, considering we might actually get some real numbers to apply to everything. But definitely look into that. Anyways, yes, SPACs. So they listed via a SPAC. DraftKings is another big name that's very trendy right now, also listed via SPAC. But there's a couple that are yet to merge, which I think are pretty important to watch. So FMCI is one, and the other is ACTT. So there's also another called SHLL, which is based on trucking and clean trucking. But the two I've mentioned, FMCI and ACTT, are in that general healthy foods, I guess plant-based alternatives for. They're both not in the exact same area, but they're in that health food space, and there is not too much, I guess, of an alternative on the market right now, apart from say Beyond Meat and a couple other stocks here and there. So I think that they do have potential to really pick up steam and momentum once their ticker symbol changes and people see them and go, okay, this is a sure thing. Because the issue with SPACs is you take that risk that they might not necessarily become the stock that they're trying to acquire and merge with, which was part of the reason why Nikola was able to stay so down low in the under the $20 mark for quite a while, until it just completely popped off to 70s and 60s as it is right now. So definitely a space to watch. Just the SPACs in general, there is so much going on. I'm in a couple of stock twits groups where it's just, it's insane right now. It seems like every single day there's a new SPAC that people are checking out. So definitely be careful. There's a lot of risk there, but it's a place to watch. I think it's really interesting right now. And The fourth stock, I'm still not entirely sold on. I took a small position in Kingsoft Cloud. I think you could go for Cloudflare if you have an issue with investing in Chinese companies. I personally don't. But in general, I want to speak on a couple of Chinese companies, including Kingsoft Cloud, in the cloud services area, simply because it's moving ridiculously, and I think that it's an interesting space. And because of this new kind of shift, again, back towards just Chinese companies killing the game again, it feels like 2018 all over again. So you've got companies like Tencent doing really well also. I think you should definitely look at NIO again. NIO and Xiaomi. So I am in Xiaomi. That's my position in the Hong Kong market. I've got a couple, but that's my main one. They're growing hugely, and they're also making inroads into Europe, which I think is important, that they're kind of entering Africa, Europe, South America before going for the US. And I think that's important considering all the drama that Huawei had in the USA. So watch that. I think they trade over the counter in the US as XIACY, but if you can trade directly on the Hong Kong market, it's 1810. And NIO. NIO is the other one that I think you should definitely look at. So it's definitely been more than 4 stocks, I'm telling you, but the Chinese stocks are definitely looking interesting. And NIO itself, I think they're picking up momentum partly due to Nikola's just insane rise, and people are deciding, well, if Nikola can have this insane valuation with no real revenue, no product being put off the production line, despite their great vision, NIO actually is selling cars. I saw one in person 1.5, 2 years ago on the streets of Beijing, and I think I saw a couple in Shanghai, so that was quite a while ago. So they're actually getting their delivery numbers up, and they've got a product that they're putting off the production line on a regular basis. But the reason that people, I guess, didn't believe in NIO, partly I guess you could say, is due to things such as the Luckin Coffee scandal lately, but also because people didn't know where their funding was going to come from. That's really been secured with their deal with the Hefei government, plus a few other investments lately that have been put into them, plus their capital raising, which did dilute shareholders a little bit, but it gives people confidence that they have the capital to keep going. They're now part of the Chinese government's rollout plan for battery swapping technology, so they've added that to their vision for what they're going to do in terms of infrastructure. And so it points to good signs for the company, or a blue sky coming, as they like to put it, going forward. So I think it's definitely worth a look as well. They've got basically what investors had doubted about them cleared up, and Tencent has recently, I think 2 days ago, upped their investment up to 15%. So definitely have a look. I'm saying definitely a lot, so don't take it as a invest for sure. Just look at it yourself. Go through all the social media posts, go through the figures, do all the number crunching. And I think you'll see that there's a lot of room to grow for NIO, especially because they recently also sold some units in Uzbekistan. So they're actually moving out there, and there's big rumors that they could be entering Germany. Quick rumor before I go. Cloudera, who is majority owned by Carl Icahn. I probably pronounced that wrong, but big time investor. They're thinking that they could be the target of a takeover by IBM as well. So that's something to keep your eye on, because there is room to fetch a hefty premium there if they do get bought out. But before I go into anything else, just wanted to thank you guys very much. This is, of course, my first video, so I'll take some suggestions down in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, whatever you want to do. And hopefully we can get a community really going here. Can't wait to get the Discord and the stock twits going. Be sure to check out my podcast if you're really new to investing, called Finance from the Harbour City. But thank you very much, guys, and I hope you have a great day.